Okay, hello everyone. Today I'm Jonathan Riza and hari ini I akan bincangkan your chapter 4.2, so which is your gagasan Malayan Union. Now before I jump into what Malayan Union is, we must focus on what happened in 4.1, which is your BMA, your British Military Administration. Now, the whole point about 4.1 is that after the kelewatan of your pendaratan British, when the British people took a long time, so like 2 weeks, to land back to Tanah Melayu, it resulted in the MPAJ, your communists, kind of taking over. Thus, the BMA came to help and solve those issues, but we can know one prominent thing in 4.1 is that they absolutely failed. They only had two things to do, which is one, memulihkan kepercayaan rakyat, and number two, mengembalikan kestabilan dan keamanan. However, they failed in both aspects. Thus, your Gagasan Malayan Union was created to menggantikan BMA. Now, Gagasan Malayan Union, what was the reason of this? So why did the British even form this union despite the first written Teochew, which is BMA? So kecuali to ganti BMA, what were the other reasons? Well, here I can listen out for you. Number one, it is to melicinkan the pentadbiran, your system pentadbiran, your government system. Melicinkan means to smoothen something. Okay? Now, next thing is to meningkatkan pelaburan ekonomi. Pelaburan means the investment. So, by having Malayan Union and you have a smooth government, it looks like a safe investment for investors, thus boosting the economy, meningkatkan. At the same time, it is to mengukuhkan, to strengthen. That's why the man has muscles here. Mengukuhkan pertahanan, the safety, the, almost you can say, relating to the military section, because remember when we had the BMA, right, one big issue was the kegiatan jenayah. There was a lot of crimes happening all around with the MPAJA with all their weapons, senjata yang diberikan oleh British semasa pendudukan Jepun. Then finally, the Gagasan Malayan Union is also to mengekalkan your orang asing, that means the outsiders, sebagai sumber tenaga kerja untuk meningkatkan ekonomi. So, relating to this point also, now, meningkatkan ekonomi by having orang asing, meaning your Chinese people and your Indian people, your immigrants, to continue to serve as their tenaga kerja, continue to work as the main source of energy for their all kinds of labor. Okay, so for Gagasan Malayan Union, we've jelaskan the matlamat, why the British want to form all of this. So before I go into the ciri-ciri, let's talk about the latar belakang. So what is the background of the Malayan Union? Now, first things first, they will tell you in the textbook that the first thing you should know is that during February of the 1943, February 1943, so I'll just write here Feb, then 1943, what happened was Unit Perancangan Tanah Melayu dibentuk di London. This is a quick pass-through point, so I won't write much. But during February, around this time, they had the Unit Perancangan Tanah Melayu. They had a whole unit about how they were going to go through about the pentadbiran, the government system regarding Tanah Melayu, your Malayan, your Malaya lah. So, yang ketuanya ialah Major General Ralph Hone. Again, just pass through. Ketua Major General Ralph Hone, tugasnya ialah untuk merangka, to plan Malayan Union. Keyword here, Malayan Union. So, what was the next thing? On the 25th of April, the dates aren't actually that important, but I will just let them know. So, just write them down so you can get to know the timeline. So, this is about 2 years after, right? What happened was, during the 25th of April 1945, Persatuan Pelajar Melayu Britain menghantar memorandum. Okay, Persatuan means your group, right? So Persatuan, then here I will write short forms. Sorry, it's a bit blurry here. Pelajar Melayu Britain. Okay, what did they do? Well, they had their menghantar memorandum, means almost like a 记录本 where you record things. So in here, what were they doing? Meminta. Meminta means to request, means to try and obtain. So, meminta apa? Hak kewargaan. What is this word? Maybe you might not know this. Kewargaan, negaraan means the citizenship. Di Tanah Melayu tidak mengikut prinsip jus soli. Okay, what is jus soli? I'm very certain they give you this in the textbook, so it's very closely. So jus soli merujuk kepada syarat, what the freak, it's not even in focus. Syarat kewarganegaraan berdasarkan tempat lahir, meaning jus soli is where your citizenship is berdasarkan where you were born in. Thus, if you were born in, say, China, and then you came over to work in Tanah Melayu, you would be considered a Chinese citizen. I can't speak. A Chinese citizen and not a Malayan citizen. And you cannot apply for citizenship. You can apply for your hak kewarganegaraan. Why? Because we're going through principle jus soli. You were born in China, thus you are a Chinese citizen. The same thing can be said if you were born in Tanah Melayu but spent your whole life away from Tanah Melayu. Say you spent your whole life in, India, for example. You would still be considered a Tanah Malayan citizen because the country you were born in, Tanah Melayu, follows jus soli. Now, why would they want to go against this thing, right? It's because we have a lot of immigrants, right? A lot of orang asing that have decided they're gonna have a lot of generations here. Thus, it would be nice to have your hak kewarganegaraan to not be seen as outside workers, but as real citizens of Tanah Melaya. So that's the first reason why they were trying to obtain this hak. Now the next point we talk about is your Tan Cheng Lock. I'm pretty sure quite a few know the school Tan Cheng Lock named after him. So Tan Cheng Lock dan Persatuan Cina Seberang Laut hantar memorandum berkaitan masa depan Tanah Melayu. Masa depan meaning the future. So they sent a memorandum regarding about the future for Tanah Melayu, meaning they have to change regarding this issue we just talked about. Next thing to know, on the 10th of October, which is a few months later at the same year, 1945, Rancangan Malayan Union dibentangkan di Parlimen British. That means the idea of Malayan Union was discussed. Dibentangkan di Parlimen British, meaning their government system. Let me write it down here. Parliament of the British. Okay. Now, who was the one who membentangkan, who's the one who discussed, who brought up the conversation, the discussion about the Rancangan Malayan Union? Well, it is none other than this man called Setiausaha Tanah Jajahan British, Setiausaha meaning Secretary of the colonized land, called George Henry Hall. Ta-da! Okay, then we move on to the last few things we need to talk about. See, on the 22nd of January 1946, here is where Rancangan Malayan Union diisytiharkan. Okay, rancangan, I will put it in short forms. Rancangan Malayan Union diisytiharkan, maksudnya it was announced, publicly announced. Okay, 宣布出来dalam warta kerajaan, dikenali. Here's your keyword here, kertas putih 6274. Okay, this is your keyword, kertas putih 6274. Now, what does this paper entail? Well, kertas putih membentangkan means to discuss about 13 things. 13 perkara. And what was the main thing they talked about? Well, membentangkan 13 perkara kandungan Malayan Union diluluskan oleh Parlimen British di London. First off, the concept of kesatuan. Concept kesatuan mean the idea of like a union. Kesatuan means satu means one. So to have everything unified as one. So concept kesatuan. Dan bentuk pentadbiran. That means how would we rule over Tanah Melayu with the Malayan Union. Then sistem perundangan. I will draw my undang-undang sindo. So sistem perundangan, the laws we will implement, kedudukan Raja-Raja Melayu. Because remember, this is still Tanah Jajahan. You already have existing rulers here. So your Raja-Raja Melayu need to be taken into consideration. Then one more thing we will put over, use a different pen for this. Connected to what we talked about, your hak kewarganegaraan. I'm going to take a nice, beautiful arrow here. We need to talk about your syarat kewarganegaraan. because they have been forming complaints, sending memorandums over to London to tell you about, hey, maybe we shouldn't have everything based on jus soli. Maybe you should allow the workers you have to become citizens of Tanah Melayu. This is an important thing you should discuss about. And finally, agama Islam. That means the main agama practice over at Tanah Melayu. Now, you should memorize these, but of course, if you can't memorize everything, of course, memorize syarat kewarganegaraan, because this will be a topic we will talk about in the later chapters, your jus soli and all. And if you can't remember the others, I will also choose to remember your Kedudukan Raja Melayu, because when we think about them, we always connect with agama Islam, because that's the only thing that the British allowed them to take over with. And since this is the Malayan Union, the word union in Malay will be kesatuan, concept kesatuan will be a nice point to remember. But of course, if you can remember everything. Alright, now what else did they discuss? See, in your kertas putih, British akan mengambil alih pemerintahan Tanah Melayu, take over again, like retake over, honestly, the entire way of the government system in Tanah Melayu. British menubuhkan, created sebuah pentadbiran berpusat, means kesatuan, one unified point di bawah jajahan British. Then, after all this discussion, we say on the 1st of April 1946, Malayan Union dilaksanakan. Let me write the full name for you guys. Dilaksanakan means what? Took place. 他们开始行动了. Whoa, we have the thing called Malayan Union. Okay? So this is the pass through. The only real important thing you should know is, well, the first your mention of Tan Cheng Lock, because you will see him later on in your textbook. Then, of course, the jus soli, hak kewarganegaraan, and your kertas putih 624. If you cannot remember the numbers, and please don't bullshit them, just write kertas putih. That is a safer bet, because if you get the numbers wrong, this is a completely different thing. Okay, we're still on board. Then let's go down to where I need to talk to you. Your gagasan Malayan Union, we now focus on the ciri-ciri. Now, the thing is, we've already talked about the overall background on how Malayan Union formed, but now I want to go in depth to the characteristics, ciri-ciri. They might ask you this in the exam, nyatakan ciri-ciri Malayan Union. So let's start. We can divide this into two things, okay? First, I want to talk about the government system, sistem pentadbiran Malayan Union. And at the same time, I also want to talk about the main principle, which was your citizenship, kewarganegaraan. Okay, so let's talk about the government first. Alright, because the government, just a little bit more things to talk about. See, your Malayan Union, just like the name suggests, Malayan Union is all about kesatuan. Thus, they tell you, oh, Malayan Union berbentuk. That means the shape, or it takes the form of a kesatuan. Like the name suggests, it's a no-brainer, okay? Kesatuan, 因为它是一个 union. Selepas itu, negeri-negeri Melayu bersekutu. Negeri-negeri Melayu tidak bersekutu. Let me write here lah. Negeri-negeri Melayu bersekutu. Negeri-negeri Melayu tidak bersekutu. And your negeri-negeri Selat, what do they do? Since there is kesatuan, they would menyatukan. So, all of these states disatukan menjadi satu unit pentadbiran. You might be thinking, wait a minute, you're missing someplace. In negeri-negeri Selat, right, there are 3 states in here. Your Singapura, Penang, and Malacca. But that's what your textbook tells you. All of these states are going to be formed under one unit government, except for Singapore. And you're like, hey, haven't you seen this before? That's right, all the way in 3.6, when we learned about the Japanese, they did the exact same thing. They separated all the other Malayan states with Singapore. Why? The same reason. Singapore is just a lot more rich. Sad truth. Okay, so the next thing we have to talk about, your ketua pentadbir. Who is the main leader here? Well, your ketua pentadbir, meaning your government leader, would be your governor, British. Now, if you were paying attention to your Form 3 sejarah, you will know governor, this word has been showing up a lot back then. And now we're seeing a comeback with them. Your governor British yang dilantik oleh Raja England. Now, what will your Governor British do? See, they will tell you, the Majlis Eksekutif dan Majlis Perundangan Malayan Union dibentuk bawah kawalan Pesuruhjaya Tinggi British. Again, Pesuruhjaya Tinggi, if you remember your Form 3 sejarah again, your Francis Light was the Pesuruhjaya Tinggi, which is a position higher than Governor actually. So there, you know that the majlis of these meetings, right, are formed by the rule of your Pesuruhjaya Tinggi. Now, finally, remember how I said over here we have to focus on the coexisting rulers, your kedudukan Melayu? Well, Raja-Raja Melayu lah. So, bagi Raja-Raja Melayu, Sultan, right, what can a Sultan do? Since the Ketua Pendabur is your Governor British, your Pesuruhjaya Tinggi is doing all of the perundangan and the executive work. My Sultan buat apa? So, bagi Raja-Raja Melayu, well, your Sultan boleh menjadi ahli Majlis Raja-Raja. You might be thinking, wait, you're telling me that the Ketua is the British guy and your Sultan has now become a member. Ahli, if you don't know, means member of a meeting. Majlis means meeting, by the way. The Sultan's power has purely just been downgraded even further. And I tell you, with more huraian, okay? Well, your ahli, as a ahli Majlis Raja-Raja, what can your Sultan do? Mereka boleh membincangkan. Membincangkan means what? Discuss. They can have discussions as if they're preschoolers in school with a group presentation. Soal agama Islam. Dan, this is a thing we've been repeating since forever. Your adab Melayu, that's it. You're like, okay, yeah, you can do your Islam stuff lah, your tradition stuff lah. Yeah, you go do that. We'll do the actual government work and we'll run your country for you. So from here we can tell Malayan Union and the previous ruling, not that different. Okay, the Japanese did the same thing. The British did that years ago and they're doing it all over again. Then, what about something more interesting, the new concept, your citizenship? So for your citizenship, we talked about how your Tan Chelo and the Persatuan Cina, they're like, hey, maybe don't ikut the jus soli, we don't like this. So the British did the exact opposite of what they wanted. So the asas, the base of your kewarganegaraan based on Malayan Union will be prinsip jus soli. They were like, I see your memorandum and I degaff. I really degaff about what you think. We're gonna continue to use the jus soli. So semua rakyat, everyone that was born in Tanah Melayu, semua rakyat di Tanah Melayu dan Singapura diiktiraf warga Malayan Union. Okay, so if you were born in Tanah Melayu and you were born in Singapore, you are all people under the Malayan Union, which is good for the new generation of laborers, so like the Chinese people and the Indian people. When they have children here, it's good for them. But remember, the coexisting parents who were not born in China do not get this privilege. Their children may be citizens. You are a warga negara, but you yourself are not. Your child is, but not you. So understand why this is still not what they wanted at all, okay? So the next thing they did, well, kewarganegaraan can be given if, okay, so let's say, they want to actually act like they listen to you. They're like, okay, we're still going to use jus soli, but let's have some exceptions. What are the exceptions? Well, if you are above 18, berumur means your age, right? Above 18, I put plus 18 plus, sudah bermastautin. Whoa, this is a new word. Bermas. Am I spelling it right? No, I'm not. Bermastautin. Means what? You have lived here, menetap. You have stayed in this location selama how many years? 10 atau 10 all the way to 15 years. Why is my camera not focusing? 10 ataupun 15 tahun di Tanah Melayu. And what if you are less than 18 years old? So I can put this symbol. Less than 18. That is actually more than 18. Less than 18 years old. Wow. What happens is, you will ikut your warga negaraan. Oh, your citizenship will be ikut your ibu bapa. Okay? So, here they say, berumur kurang daripada 18 tahun yang ibu bapanya merupakan warga negara. Okay? So first thing I said, if you are 18 plus, berumur 18 tahun dan ke atas, sudah bermastautin selama 10 tahun ataupun sehingga 15 tahun, you boleh jadi warga negara of your tanah Melayu. Keyword here, right? In the textbook, they say serta. You cannot change the word to atau because you can change it to dan. That's perfectly fine. You know why serta? Because you have to have both these criteria. If you have served here for, let's say if you are 18 plus but not yet 10 years, you still cannot apply for citizenship. Now the opposite way, the other criteria is that you are less than 18. But if your parents are warga negara, sure, why not? If your parents aren't, screw you lah, you're not gonna be able to get the citizenship. So that is the run through on, like, I wish the camera would focus. This is the run through on the ciri-ciri. Then you'll run through on how the government system worked and how the kewarganegaraan worked. If you ask me, this is definitely more important because it's a new concept we're introducing on how the laborers want their citizenship. Okay? Now I'm going to join you for the next part, which is how did the Malayan Union, like this whole thing, how was it formed? Because you might imagine the sultans are not very happy with this bullshit, right? So how did they even get this thing to be accepted by our current existing Malayan leaders? So I'm going to come to you in a bit. Voila, I'm back with you with well, it's actually the same page. I just flipped it. So we're now going to talk about your what we can call it as cara-cara, or bagaimanakah your British mendapatkan tanda tangan sultan, because the Malayan Union, right, this rancangan, right, does not seem to be in the sultan's favor. So how did they do this? So the first thing is, the first stage comes with your usaha H.C. Willen. So this man, right, you've actually seen his name in 4.1 when we were introducing about the BMA. See, you know what role he played? Well, he was actually he wasn't the Brigadier General H.C. Willen, your timbalan Ketua Pegawai Hal Ehwal Awam. Such a pass-through name. See, he has a bigger part here. So what did your H.C. Willen do? So, as the Timbalan Ketua Pegawai Hal Ehwal Awam Malaya, which is the same title he was given in 4.1, so I won't mention that. See, tugasnya, he had a job. Number 1, to merintis. Merintis means what? To open up, to open way, okay? Open up the way, create the road, jalan, for your Raja Melayu, for them to face this thing, which is your rancangan. Where is it? I didn't write it. Rancangan Malayan Union. Now, why did they have to open up the jalan? Well, the more important point here is to memudahkan. Memudahkan means to make something easier. 你要让这个东西变得更容易. Memudahkan tugas. Siapa? Mac Michael. Now, that's not his full name, of course. This is the guy we'll talk about later. Mac Michael is actually a big M. Sorry. Mac Michael. Over here, you're Sir Harold MacMichael. Alright, so it is to make his job easier because H.C. Willen is here to introduce introduce the whole rancangan Malayan Union to their kings, but Sir Harold MacMichael is here to actually get their signatures. Alright, so memudahkan tugas MacMichael. At the same time, is to memastikan. Memastikan means to ensure. Memastikan your sokongan. Sokongan means support. Ensure the support of who? Your Raja Melayu. Okay? Untuk menandatangani perjanjian. So I'm gonna do a nice arrow from here to here. They wanted tanda tangan. So what was his laporan? So you see on the side of your textbook, they will give you from the 8th of September 1945 to the 29th of September 1945. So in just a few days, right, less than a month, he visited all the Negeri Melayu punya sultan. Then what did they say? So Sultan Johor was the first sultan he met with. Then Sultan Selangor, Sultan Kedah, Perlis, Perak, Negeri Sembilan, Pahang, Terengganu, and Kelantan. This is again pass-through information, not as important. See, after meeting with all these sultans in less than a month, what was the laporan? What was his report? Well, laporannya, he said that mempunyai keyakinan. Okay, keyakinan means very strong confidence. Keyakinan yang tinggi. About what? That the Raja Melayu akan menyokong British. Menyokong, we just talked about it. It means support. Raja Melayu 肯定会支持你的 British. Trust me, they will support you. Dengan what? menandatangani your Malayan Union. Okay? So, there's no easy way to say this, that if you want to think of it logically, there is no historical records on how everything went down, because there's only one man and his report that yes, they definitely supported us. So one way you can think of it is that perhaps H.C. Willen didn't actually explain what Malayan Union was doing. He probably didn't mention the fact that the sultans were now purely Ahli Majlis Raja Melayu, that you guys were going to be members, no longer having any sort of power. It's pretty much the same way you had it before the Japanese came in. Probably left that part out. So that's why when ultimately came your second guy, Sir Harold McMichael, when he came on the 11th of October of 1945, remember that he had all of his meetings, right? Here's pertemuan, which is the word we use, at the 8th of September of 1945. When it came on the 11th of October, so where your McMichael, Sir Harold McMichael, had to actually get the tanda tangan, he was quite shocked because laporan's like, hey, strong confidence that they're definitely gonna support us. And then when he comes to get their signatures, they were like, what the freak is this? Hell no. He's like, hey, what the hell? Because his job is only to get the signatures. That's it. That's the only order he's given. So on the 11th of October 1945, your Sir Harold McMichael tiba di Port Swettenham, Selangor. This is no longer what it's called. We renamed it. But again, this is passed by information. See, dengan kapal royalist ditemani oleh juru bahasa 80 new boat. So all you need to know is that he did not know Malay himself. Some English officers did know how to speak Malay, but not him. So this they might ask you in objective lah, possibly. So now what was his What was his goal? Tugasnya was to mendapatkan. Alamak, please focus. Okay, mendapatkan. That's very bright. Tanda. I'm gonna punch my phone. Holy shit. There you go. Tanda tangan Sultan. Okay, now, how did he get this? How did he get their signatures? The cara, right? The usaha. So, your man decided, okay, cara yang dirintis oleh Willen gagal kerana ditentang oleh Raja-Raja Melayu. Means, whatever methods that H.C. Willen did not work. Okay, gagal. Let me put a big word here. Gagal. Did not work. So, your McMichael had to find out different ways to get the signatures. So, Sir Harold McMichael menggunakan pelbagai taktik. Now, tactic is just a very nice and polite way to say used a lot of bribery, a lot of threatening, a lot of, we could say, not so formal, not so polite ways to get the persetujuan, means the agreement of the Raja-Raja Melayu. Now, what's the first thing they did? So, beliau membuat kunjungan. Kunjungan means he went to visit them ke negeri Melayu to get the signatures, right? And in the span of 2 months, 2 bulan, beliau berjaya mendapatkan tanda tangan 9 Raja-Raja Melayu. Berjaya. See that? That's what H.C. Willen failed to do. Berjaya. Berjaya mendapatkan what? Tanda tangan Raja-Raja Melayu. This is where you cannot use back the word Sultan. You have to change the word to Raja-Raja Melayu. Sebab kat sini we are going to explain about the 9 sultans, 9. So, for a small recap, your usaha Sir Harold McMichael, when he realized that cara yang dirintis oleh Willen gagal, he decided to use different kinds of tactics untuk mendapatkan persetujuan Raja-Raja Melayu lain. So he went there to visit all the negeri Melayu. In the span of 2 months, he succeeded. Not a clean victory, but he succeeded to accomplish his task, which was to get the signatures of the 9 Raja-Raja Melayu. Now, I'm going to move on to a final section with a clean page, and it's very extra information, so I'm going to give you a quick run through. Hello, I'm back. So let's see. This is a small little list about the chronology of how he got these signatures. Who got the signatures? Maybe I shouldn't use a red pen. Your Sir Harold McMichael. We'll see this name again, so it'd be very wise of you to remember his name, McMichael. Okay, there we go. So he first started with Johor. There's a similarity between him and your HC Willan, where they started with Johor first, because Johor was known to have a hubungan baik with the British. Okay, that's why. So, with your Sultan Johor menghadap Sultan Ibrahim ibni Almarhum Sultan Abu Bakar to menurunkan tanda tangan. Okay, the only word I'm going to write here is the keyword, which is where menurunkan tanda tangan. Okay, menurunkan means to give your signature on the 20th of October 1945. To continue my phrase, happened on the 20th of October, the Sultan Johor gave his signature. Then for Selangor, we see that on the 24th of October, your Sir Harold McMichael menghadap Sultan Hisamuddin Al-Alam Shah ibni Al-Murahim Sultan Alauddin Sulaiman Shah to menurunkan his tanda tangan. Now, these two states I say are the more normal ones, as in the only thing you need to know is that they just gave it, menurunkan. For the rest, they have quite some drama. See, for Pahang, it started off with how they were terpaksa. So, your McMichael menghadap Sultan Abu Bakar, okay, yang terpaksanya, beliau forced him to give the signature. So that's the unique one here, forced. Then for Negeri Sembilan, at first mulanya Engan, okay, menghadap yang di-Pertuan Besar Tuanku Abdul Rahman. He was like, no, I'm not giving my signature. To which he was forced. The desak means to be forced. Both mean forced, by the way, paksa and desak. Boom. Then for Perak, a bit goofy. They played a little bit of a fight. They were like, hey, menghadap Sultan Abdul Aziz Al-Mustahsim Billah Shah. He was like, hey, how about I call you back in a few more months? So baginda cuba melengah-lengahkan. It means to lengthen out the time, masa, to give the signature. But in the end, he still ended up giving the signature. So there's that. Masa. Then for Kedah, if you remember your Form 3, right? From Form 3, your Sultan Kedah was always known to be the most aggressive. As you can see here, what did your Sultan Kedah do? Well, baginda berlaku perdebatan antara kedua-dua pihak, between the two powers, between the two people. See, menghadap Sultan Badis Shah ibni Al-Murahim, Sultan Abdul Hamid Halim Shah, he was like, hey, I'm gonna debate with you on this. I absolutely will not give you my signature. But it didn't matter, because even though baginda bertegas ingat, it's like, hell no, debating after this, hell no, I'm still not giving it to you. He was still forced to give the signature. Then for Perlis, nothing much. Didesak menurunkan tanda tangan oleh Tuanku Syed Putra Jamalulain. Now, for Kelantan, a bit special. See, your menghadapi Sultan Ibrahim ibni Almarhum Sultan Muhammad ke-6. See, what happened was, not ke-6, I'm so sorry. Ke-4, there we go. So, for what happened was, McMichael, you might imagine, after going through that many sultans that were going against him, he straight up said, okay, I'm gonna threaten you. This is not menggugut, it's mengugut. Mengugut, Mengugut means to threaten, that you, I'm not speaking. Threaten, mengugut. How? Bahawa Sir Harold McMichael tidak akan mengiktiraf Raja-Raja Melayu. I am not going to recognize any of you Malay kings, especially those who are unwilling to give your signature, and thus your Sultan terpaksa menurunkan tanda tangan. The difference here with Kelantan is that your McMichael threatened them first. He straight up just opened, this was his opening line, and then forced. Whereas these, they probably gave him more options, like, hey, please sign this. So finally, for Terengganu, the final state, well, menghadap Sultan Ismail Nasruddin Shah, well, mulanya Engan. Seperti what? Seperti Negeri Sembilan. They were like, hey, no. And why, though? They had a steady reason for this. Because this particular perjanjian, this particular agreement, bertentangan, meaning it's going against the Undang-Undang Tubuh Negeri Terengganu. Now, this one you've learned in depth in Form 3. So again, we're not going to explain much about this. Just so you know, this is a very special, this is the specialized law for your Terengganu that was known to be very powerful. So, in the end, your McMichael This is like the final state. He has no time for going. He does not care if you sue him. He's like, take me, whatever. He's Sabrina Carpenter, sue me. So, akhirnya turun tanda tangan. And that is the entirety of your 4.2 gagasan Malayan Union. Just for your information, Malayan Union is not a study thing. That's why we still don't have it to this day. You can imagine that BMA failed, Malayan Union is not up for much success. And we will go through this in the next part, which is your 4.3. That is all from me, Jonathan Rizal. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.